Hey, what's up, folks? Thanks for checking out my channel again. I Am Toys. Those of you who know me know my name is Chris. So here she is in the flesh, in the plastic, Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, Hot Toys, 1/6 scale. So there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of love going on for this figure right now. Those of you who love it, love it. Those of you who hate it, hate it. There's people that are complaining about the sculpt's not spot on. There are people, who wanted a seamless body. Now they're complaining about it being seamless. And there's a bunch of factors that folks are complaining about that have already been kind of discussed. And just to get it out of the way, now, before I get berated, because there's always one or two people that love to give me a bunch of shit in my reviews, and the attitude they take with me is it's almost like I stole their girlfriend, or I stole their wallet, or I somehow challenged their manhood in front of someone important. I mean, this is the attitude that some folks like to critique YouTube videos with. It's just a hobby, folks. These are toys. It's no reason to get this angry. But anyway, this gentleman, I had done a review with the, segueing off for a little bit on the Harley Quinn, and we were talking about the joints, and I was glad that they didn't use a Fison or seamless body because of issues with cracking, peeling, and so on and so forth. So he mentioned that Denobi did a review on a higher end Fison, didn't have any problems like that. So God forbid that I mentioned that I had a problem with a high-end one, because if another person who does reviews or expresses their opinion that there is no problems, that person's obviously got to be right. Everything's got to be perfect. And if I challenge that belief, holy shit, I must be the biggest asshole on the planet. Let's get this straight. Everyone's going to have a different experience when it comes to figures, when it comes to Fison bodies, whatever. I had a high-end one. I had the elbow bent. It cracked and peeled within about 9-10 months of a consistent pose. That was a high-end one. If no one else is experiencing those problems, then that's awesome. Good for you. Unfortunately, that's what I experienced. You don't need to berate people. There's no reason for negativity. Just expressing opinions. That's my experience with one of the Fison high-end bodies. And for anyone that wants a really good explanation, Toys Daily did an awesome review of this figure and went through. It's a Hong Kong-based YouTube channel. I think they were one of the first reviews out of this figure, and they did a great job explaining to you the issues with seamless bodies, the construction, particularly with this one, why there are issues with using certain Fison bodies, as far as the color, the type they use, and even with the high-end ones, you have to be able to paint on them. It's not just that even some of the higher-end ones might be a little bit more durable. You also have to be able to apply a paint application to these things, which not all of them you can. So they do a great job of explaining how the technology is not quite there yet. And also keep in mind, folks, if you want really high-end Fison seamless bodies, you're going to drive the price of the figure up even more than it already is. And people don't realize that sometimes. It's the name of the game. So, and with this figure coming out, Toys Daily went through an awesome video segment. It's probably about 10 or 15 minutes or so, where they're maybe not quite that long, maybe about 10 minutes, talking about the issues you're going to have with this figure, since it is seamless and it's not one of the super high-end body types, again, because of issues that they also explain and I've already somewhat mentioned. So, and from some people that have already been posting pictures, this body has already cracked. The paint has already come off from certain poses. So those of you who wanted a seamless body, like, oh my God, you have to do seamless. Well, here you go. You got what you wanted, but don't be mad later on when this body starts to fall apart on you and it starts to degrade, especially if you have it in a consistent pose. There were folks that were worrying about being able to pose this thing. Just physically being able to pose the figure. I never thought that was going to be an issue. I always assumed there would be some kind of posability and dynamic range to this figure. The question is, how long is it going to be able to sustain it? That is always the question. So some folks have already complained about tightness on the joints. I can tell you right now, the joints are a little bit tight. Apparently there's a somewhat metal structure or frame underneath of this figure. I don't know if it extends from the waist down, but I remember Toys Daily talking about the shoulders and whatnot and the elbows. And I think one of the reasons they said it was a very pragmatic choice was because you want to articulate the bone structure in her arms, make it look more realistic. And I think they did a good job. I mean, when I zoom up on the figure and I show you the detail work on the collarbone on this figure, it's really amazing. So I was going to do a lot of articulation, but after seeing some photos on on Facebook and Sideshow Freaks, I think I'm going to step back a little bit. I'm going to do probably maybe one dynamic pose for you, just to show you the range as far as what you can, where you should probably go with the figure and where you probably shouldn't. And maybe I'll mention some other things. As you folks know, I don't do articulation on a lot of videos because I don't want to ruin my figure. And from a few people, it looks like they, granted, assuming these sources and people are genuine, they damaged their figure after, from one video I saw, like within 10 or 15 minutes or something like that of a dynamic pose. But just make sure you follow the instructions that are in the Hot Toys instruction manual. They give them to you for a reason. It doesn't mean you can't push it farther, but you're taking any potential damage or problems into your own hand. Basically, you basically do it at your own risk. So let's zoom in on the head sculpt and we'll go from there. All right, so there's a close-up of the sculpt. Now this is where a lot of the controversy lies with this figure. A lot of people feel that the sculpt does not look like Gal Gadot. I have no problem with the sculpt. Is it 100%? Obviously not. So as far as the likeness, I think it's about 85% to 90% of the way. So we'll say between 80 and 90%. There you go. Some folks, it's 100%, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. Is that going to cause me to trash the figure, not want to get it? Absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, if they do come out with another version from Wonder Woman, the armor version, this way I got two bodies, and I can actually get another head parted out and have two sculpts if they do improve it. And I've got two poses. I've got one for a museum pose, and then I've got one that I can really push and have some fun with when it comes to dynamic range and posing and so on and so forth. And if it gets damaged, hey, oh well. At least you have two, which is a benefit of kind of having this one right now. So again, there are those who don't like the head sculpt, and it was a deal breaker for them right from the get-go as far as buying this figure. So if that's why you're passed on this and you're going to wait for the next one, the actual Wonder Woman one, that's fine. It's to each their own. So I'm happy. It's about what makes you happy. In the end, it's your money. Don't ever let someone tell you that you shouldn't spend your money on something, or there's something wrong with you for wanting to spend the money on a figure that you want. If you like it, that's all that matters. And there's a lot of awesome things about this figure as far as the detail on everything. The paint application, everything is really good. Was it 100% spot on? Again, no. Where the fault lies, I believe it was Lee So-young who did the head sculpt at this, and then J.C. Hong also, once again does the paint application. If you really wanted to say where it lies, I'm not sure. I think there will be other people that have differing opinions on this, and it'll be a matter of debate. But I heard a few people were, I don't know if I necessarily agree, but they think that Lee So-young hit the head sculpt out of the park, but it was the actual paint application that took down the likeness a little bit. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. It's in the eye of the beholder. So I don't know. J.C. Hong is fantastic. So I don't see how the argument can be made where he dropped the ball or something, or he screwed it up. I think the paint application is good for what they were trying to do and trying to match the body. So overall, I'm content. So again, if the likeness not being 100% is a deal breaker for you, and it already is for some of you, then just don't get it. It's as simple as that. So as far as the head sculpt, I don't know what else I can mention. I know some folks they wanted sculpted hair instead of the rooted. I know some people don't like messing around with the hair. It can be a pain in the ass. I don't know. I have no problem with it really per se, as long as they do a good job, and they did a good job rooting the hair. So you know, sculpted. I don't know. I'd have to actually see it to really give an opinion. You know, the Harley Quinn that just came out with the sculpted hair, I think looked great, and people wanted rooted with that. But there's so many issues with that when it comes to pigtails and everything else. So you can't please everybody. There's always going to be factors that people complain about with the figure. So it is what it is, man. Just like I said, just do you, man. Spend the money on what you want. So let me pan up and down and show you the front of the figure and the awesome detail on the armor, and very excellent, as you can see from this photo. I mean, from this shot already, the detail on the collarbone, you know, and accentuating it, and all those other factors in the paint application. It looks really good. The figure's not as shiny as I thought it was going to be. The video Toys Daily put out looked really shiny. I honestly doesn't look that shiny in hand, and I think part of the issue with wanting the figure to shine a little bit, it's almost like the theory with bodybuilders and with fitness competitors. You ever see that they use dark tanning lotion, and then they're always shiny when they come out on stage and do their posing routines. They do that because it brings out the definition in their body. You know, when they have that shine to them, you know, it brings features out in the body that you probably wouldn't normally see. So it's a similar kind of factor in this as well, maybe having that shine. I could be completely wrong, but this is just what a little bit of common sense and just a little bit of knowledge of bodybuilding, because I used to work out years ago and compete. So maybe if that actually transcends to paint application on figures, you know, I don't know, but as far as I'm concerned, that would be, you know, one of the reasons why you have that shine to it. And in the film, though, also she looks, you know, kind of glossy. So maybe they're trying to also mimic that sweat. But for sure, I definitely, at least in my opinion, I think it's done to bring out some of the definition, the striations in her muscles that you can clearly see in the video. So let's get to it, and I'll move up and down the figure for you. Alright, so we're going to scroll down, and as you can see, the job on the collarbone, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and show you this. But the job on that collarbone is terrific. The paint application on the body, it's really, really good. They really able to mimic the skeletal structure of her neck really well. Whether or not it's actually spot on and exact to Gal Gadot in the movie, who cares? It's a good job overall. So again, it definitely is not as shiny as I initially thought it was, you know, just going back to that. But it's a killer detail, man. Paint application is very good, but like Toys Daily mentions in their video as well, you know, be careful as far as putting a lot of pressure on the body, rubbing it and stuff like that, because there's a very possible way you could actually remove, it's very feasible that you could actually remove the gloss on the body itself by handling it, depending on how you handle it. So just be careful. That's all you can do, you know, as far as warning you. So I'm going down. Really, really awesome job. The armor, and there's a lot of people, and a lot of people are right. And Dean Knight mentions this in his review as well, that the armor, her costume in Batman vs Superman, looked more like it was like a brown. You know, we all know Zack Snyder likes to. He likes to basically desaturate his films, kind of suck the color out. Dean mentions the same thing. It's just his style of filming. You know, it is what it is. So this is more accurate, you know, per se to Wonder Woman. But you can probably guarantee that it was probably the same. Again, probably in Batman vs Superman. But, you know, Zack Snyder does what he does. So... And then going down, be careful when you use the strap or the hip hugger. It's a clamp hugger that you normally get with dynamic figures to hold them, hold them up in the air. For this figure, they didn't do that, and for good reason, because if you were to try and do that, you would probably crease the actual skirt area, or on these flaps per se, and you could probably risk damaging it. And using the clamp, I would be careful as well as far as putting it on it, because I did that, and it did resolve. It came out, but it left an imprint on the sides, and it did go away after a few minutes. So just be careful using that. Probably keep it around the waist area, and again, be careful on the waist as well, because you don't want to damage the paint application on the armor as well. So again, just some words of caution. As you can see here, I'm going to show this. I'm going to stay on this for a second. Now, the sword, when you put it through the back, the holsters to go through, it comes out a little towards the front. I don't know if that's accurate to the film, if it was like that, but in my preference would be for it to be more straight and not to angle inwards like that, sticking across the rope. I don't know if anyone's figured out a way to adjust for that yet, because I know a lot of people don't have this in hand yet. But unfortunately, in order to keep the actual harness the way it's supposed to be, for that to be on her shoulder, and for this to come across here, and for both of these components to rest at her side where they're supposed to be, it brings the sword a little too far over into the front of her right side. But whatever, does it really bother me? Not that much. So, and continuing to go down, the paint application again is awesome, man, on her legs, and that slight shine to it really does bring out the muscular structure of her legs. And my lighting also helps as well to let you be able to see that. So it's a really good job on Hot Toys' part. They have exceeded certain things, and certain things have remained the same. You, as usual, you got to be careful on this figure, man. When you're posing it, and so on and so forth, in long dynamic poses, because you may damage it. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes, guys. So, all right, going back up, and I'm going to go right around to the back of the figure first, just to show you what I'm talking about as far as the sword. And let me rotate her around for you. Alright, so now I'm showing you the back. As you can see, there are two holster compartments, basically, or two loops. You've got the one at the top, on the base, near the actual handle, and then you've got one lower. So again, if you're not seeing it, I'm talking about right there, and I'm talking about right there. I was hoping that these were adjustable, meaning you could slide them up, because if you could actually slide that one up, you could, that would basically, reposition the sword and make it maybe go down straight as opposed to curving around the side. Who knows if that's screen accurate or not? Who cares? Again, but I know for some folks it might annoy you. So I'm just mentioning it. Most people are probably going to have her with her sword out anyway, so it's probably not a big deal to a lot of people. But again, I'm just going to mention it. It's not nitpicking. It's just going over things. That's about it. So that's what I was talking about as far as the sword coming around. While we're here, continue to scroll up and down, so forth. I'll try to show you the detail on the accessories later if I got some time, because I'm trying to finish this before my kids come home and they start creating all kinds of havoc and noise. So, and the actual material on the flaps on these, like Toys Daily mentioned this in their review as well, being a little bit fragile, a little flimsy. So just be careful, when you're posing her, because they can be easily creased or ripped or bent, so just be careful, be cognizant of that, and you'll be all right. And the back of the legs. Whoops, sorry. But just looking, you know, the paint application on the armor, on the leg armor, is so good. So good. My only complaint is be careful when you're posing, because it does move up and down a little bit. So the joints in the ankle joints, the pegs do show a little bit. You can minimize that a little by, you know, pushing the armor back down, but it doesn't 100% cover it, at least so far what I've experienced. But it does a good enough job. So, and you know, your regular Batman base that you get from BVS, or Batman vs Superman base that you get from the film. And if you guys want to see a close-up of the sword handle, since I'm already here, I'll zoom up on that a little bit for you. Really intricate work. Alright, let's flip her around to the left and right sides for you. Here's the left side portrait shot. And scrolling down, you can see, you know, look at the striations in that arm and the muscular structure. It's so good. So again, as you can see, that added gloss and that shine brings out the detail much more. And when you light this sucker properly, it comes out even more so. Decent job on the shield itself. For some reason, I feel like the shield was a little bit more weathered in the film, but I'm probably wrong. You know, like I mentioned before, Zack Snyder's films are pretty dark as far as color contrast. It's kind of sucked out, so it's probably just his filming that made it look like that. And the leg. I tell you, man, it's so good on the paint app on the armor. So good. Alright, going back up. I'll turn her around and give you the right side portrait. Alright, and right side portrait. Now, if you see at the base of the hair, it is a little frizzy. I noticed that's always an issue with rooted hair on the Hot Toys figures. Whatever fixture they put in, it's great from the root of the scalp and always down past midway. But when you get to the end, it gets frizzy and frayed a little bit. It's almost like girls will tell you they always hate split ends on their hair. It's kind of like that a little bit. Like she's really got a bad case of split ends at the base of her hair. But it's, and also just frizzy. It's just what happens. And almost like what happens to real hair too. So you can try and adjust or mod that. Maybe trim it, cut it, maybe use a little bit more of a fixative, some kind of hair gel, to try and not make it look as frizzle-frazzled and frizzy the way it is. But you know, some people are content. I may do that, I may not. I doubt it. I don't know. It depends how motivated I am. We'll see. I'm still not even really done messing around with the Harley Quinn yet. I still have a lot more pictures to take with her and some poses, and you know, we'll see what happens. And I'm still gonna remove those bracelets from her arms, because I have both bracelets on the Harley Quinn figure right now, so it's gonna be really interesting to see if there's any paint rub on that. But anyway, going back to the figure, I'm gonna go scroll down on our Miss Diana here. As you can see, very good detail. I would love to see how they tweak this armor for the Wonder Woman version, the actual film version. I'm sure they'll do something. You know, Hot Toys. They're going to do something to get you to want the new one, other than the head sculpt. And you know it'll be an improvement on this one. Like I already mentioned, I'm happy with it. So wasn't a deal breaker for me. And we already did the back, so I'm going to turn her back around. I'll have her in a pose, give you a kind of an idea of what you can do with her articulation wise, and that'll be it, folks. Alright, so here you go, folks. Here's my dynamic pose for you. This is all you're going to get out of me. So to my buddy Johnson Lee, I'm sorry, man, that this is to the extent where I'm comfortable doing articulation for now. I just don't want to push it too much, because during that edit, you know, before I set this pose up, you know, you can really see where you could possibly damage this figure, you know, and so on and so forth. There are plenty of videos up right now. Well, not plenty. I think there's 2 or 3. I know Dean's got his up already. If you want to see that cross arm pose with the gauntlets, he's already got that up. So feel free to check that out. He's got a little bit more articulation. You can bend the elbows, obviously, 90 degrees. The videos already exist, so anybody that wants to see further articulation, you know, go for it. This is to the extent that I'm comfortable for right now, because, you know, plus this video is probably running long as shit already, because I talk too much. But anyway, the knees itself, this is really important. You can extend the knees at 90 degrees, but obviously you're not going to want to keep them that way too long. It says in the instructions, don't do it, because you're going to damage the thigh or you're going to damage the costume. And if you look around the W around her, that's around her waist on the armor, the pointy edges at the base of the W you can see are hitting the pleats of the skirt. And those will obviously, if I were to push it up a little bit more, would probably leave a crease in it or even puncture a hole in it. I wouldn't be surprised already if, when I straighten those legs back out, that there are imprints from that edge already, just in the amount of time that I've been talking. So just be really careful. I mean, the arms itself, if you had them to the side, they can go forward and back, forward 80 degrees, back 60. That's according to instructions. If they're lateral, they can go up 60 degrees from the side, which is almost where I have them right now. So I could probably push them up a little bit more. But Hot Toys tells you not to do that, because you could risk damaging the figure. So I'm going to follow those instructions. If I had 2 of these, again, I would probably feel a little more comfortable about pushing this figure to its limit to show you what it can do. But I just can't do it right now, guys. So, and I generally don't do articulation anyway, because I'm always worried about fucking my figure up in one way or another, whether it was a regular Hot Toys body with joints or seamless. So external rotation, as far as the arm, you've got, I believe, about 20 to 40 degrees, 20 degrees outward, and then you have 40 degrees internally rotating in. So just watch yourself there as well. You know, seamless bodies are awesome, man. They are stunning visually, as far as what you can achieve in bringing out detail. You know, Hot Toys has given us, in my opinion, an excellent product for a decent price point. You know, to be able to show those striations and the separation of muscles the way they've been able to achieve on like they have on this figure is really something special. Like I was shown in the video prior. It's really something special, man, to see the separation in the muscles, especially if you have it lit right. See some of the striations, the detail in the collarbone. It's really incredible. You know, they did something great, but as usual, you know, with seamless bodies, you got to be careful, man. I want to suggest to anybody, if you want to get a little bit of an educational lesson in seamless bodies, watch a video on YouTube of this figure by a Hong Kong channel called Toys Daily. They do a great job of explaining the problems that you're going to have with this figure, even more in depth than I have already, and why Hot Toys uses, why they used the structure that they did and why they did, and the issues with using other high-end bodies and why they didn't use it. You know, remember, you have to be able to apply a paint application to some of these higher-end bodies, to seamless bodies, and you can't do that on all of them. It's difficult. It's got to be able to hold. It's got to take. You know, and if it doesn't, you know, you're shit out of luck. So, you know, there's a method to why Hot Toys does what they do. You know, with Harley Quinn, I'm glad they went with the regular joints that were visible. Number one, they kind of disguised it in the knee the best they could. They sculpted it. People still complained. Oh, well. You obviously got to be careful with the knees on the Harley, though, because of the stocking. That's where your damage potential comes in. The elbows, they're completely covered. You can cover them with a shirt. It's fantastic. I don't have to worry about a year going by or longer or whatever. I know most people will probably adjust poses more than that, you know, whatever. But you don't have to worry about cracking and peeling because you have the joint bent for too long. You know, unfortunately, I had that experience with a higher end Fison. You know, and it is what it is, man. It happened to me. It doesn't mean it's going to happen to everybody. So again, I'm not knocking seamless bodies. But folks, just remember, man, higher end bodies, you know, you got to be able to apply paint applications to them. You got to be able, you know, you obviously a collector is going to want to pose them, and really high-end seamless bodies are going to drive the price point up of a figure. So we already complained about the price of figures. Do we really want to jack it up anymore? So, you know, just be happy with what we got. I think Hot Toys did an incredible job for the price point that we got this figure for. So pros for the figure, obviously the body itself, getting a seamless body, but of course there are cons to that, like we've already discussed. The accessories are decent. You get the lasso of truth. You know, you get both her gauntlets that simulate the impact wave that she can send out, as far as, you know, deflecting things as well. It's really awesome. The detail in the armor is phenomenal. I think the shield is good. I don't know if it was a little bit more weathered in the movie, but hey, it's okay. I like Batman vs Superman, and Wonder Woman for me almost indirectly made Batman vs Superman a little bit better, believe it or not. Especially if you watch the director's cut. Director's cut. I don't know why they didn't release that movie first, but hey, studio makes the decisions, right? The head sculpt for me is a pro because it's 80 to 90% of the way there, and that's good enough for me. I'm happy with it. I know some people don't want that for the price point. They're like, oh, if we're spending $240, man, on a figure, $230, you know, it should be perfect. It doesn't always work out like that, you know, and it's in the eye of the beholder. So, you know, and again, that would go into a con for certain people because it's not 100%. So just know that what you're getting into when you buy this figure. So cons, obviously, you know, the seamless body, potential for damage, limited articulation. So just be cautious about everything I've already mentioned. I'm not going to reiterate any of that any more than I already have. So again, watch the Toys Daily video, give you a short education lesson for those of us that may be new to the hobby. I've been collecting for almost 20 years, or if not 20 years now. I know the risks that come with these figures, and I am comfortable with it. And I know how I should treat them to avoid the damage. So before you berate me and give me a bunch of shit in the comments, because there's always one or two people, high five to you guys. I'm sure I'll get berated on this video as well. Just watch that video by them if you can find it. It's a good learning experience for a lot of collectors that don't fully understand the issue with seamless bodies. But again, just to reiterate, I think the figure's great. It's awesome for what you get and what you can do with it. It may be a little bit limited, but that's going to be, you know, that's a risk you take. So overall, the presence and, you know, the overall detail of this figure, I'm happy. So I think that's really about it. I'm gonna show you. I'll show you the accessories, and that'll probably end the video. I don't think there's anything else that I've forgotten. Most of the stuff is already covered in Dean's video. Dean Neidl he goes through some of the other stuff. He'll do some other, I think he did some other poses, like I mentioned. He does the arm cross pose. So if you want some more articulation, you can piece it together from him. And I know there's 1 or 2 other videos that are up as well. You might get a little bit of articulation from them as well. I don't think there are going to be too many people going crazy with articulation when it comes, excuse me, to this figure in videos, because again, it's just you know, the potential for damage is there, you know. So, but as long as you're careful with it and you don't push it too much, and you don't leave it in poses for a certain amount of time, you'll be fine. So, all right, let's get to the accessories and then we're done. Alright, so I got 1 gauntlet of each on here, because originally I was going to try and do a pose before I did the one that I just showed you. I was going to have her arm bent and then have it look like she was deflecting something as she had the sword in her hand, but I said screw it and just did the 1 pose for you guys. So here's the 1 gauntlet. As you can see, typical Hot Toys fashion, good sculpting, good paintwork. The other gauntlet, the alternate one that gives you that kind of glowing effect, I think they did a good job, a really excellent job on the paint application on there to simulate that. It's really good. The detail is there. I was also going to show you guys the sword and show you the detail on that, but I'm running short of time and I got to be done because I have to finish this because my kids are going to be coming home soon. So, you know, prices you pay when you're a dad. And I think Dean is going to show you that in his full review. I don't know if he has that up. I think he said he's going to have it up tomorrow. So check that out and you'll be able to see all the etchings. The detail on the sword is really good. You probably saw a little bit of it from me panning over the figure a little, but it really is good. How they fit that kind of shit in. Those minute details are, it's just Hot Toys really does an excellent job. And all your obvious alternate enclosed hands for holding the sword, holding the lasso, so on and so forth. And that is the basis for the accessories. All the other accessories you've basically already seen. I've showed it to you because they're already on the figure, obviously. So I guess we'll just close out with 1 more cool shot of her. And that's about it. So I hope I gave you everything, at least some of what you were looking for. I know I don't do everything in my reviews. So once again, you know, forgive me for that. It just is what it is. We all have our style. Everybody's got their style when it comes to doing reviews. So this is mine. So anything that you didn't get from mine, you can get from Dean's video. Other guys are out there as well. My boy Andrew over at Keyboard Warriors, he's got this figure as well. I know he's got it coming in, so he'll do a lot more as well. So whatever you didn't get here, you'll definitely get there. As far as articulation and other minute details, I pretty much I try to usually just give you guys an idea what you're getting out of the box. So I hope I did that. I hope I gave you enough clarity as far as what this figure actually looks like in good lighting. And Dean also does a good job at that in his as well, in his True Light reviews. So I guess that's about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Next figure I'll be getting is probably going to be Ripley. I've been waiting for that. I'm a big Alien fan. I'm just a big horror fan in general. So I guess that's it, folks. Deuces.